Blocked. It was blocked, y'all. Oh, my God. Who got the ball? Did they fuck it up? Did we not get it? Oh, God. Oh. I hate this team. Oh, fuck. You got to be shitting me. Well, hello, good people. Mark Holmes here with my buddy Cowboy Joe Boo. And, of course, we got the funky chicken in the house. And, as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. Man, you know, I have to say, man, it sucks right now being a Dallas Cowboy fan. Let's be clear here. It sucks where we are right now. Don't get me wrong. I love our players, man. I love Micah Parsons. I love Dak Prescott. Rico, what he's been able to do this season, it's been great. We've got some good pieces and things. But if you want to figure out why we suck is because the Joneses half-ass do shit. And I'm mad. I am mad. I'm tired of this. Let's remind ourselves how we got here. Listen, this is last offseason. This is a little taste right here from the Pat McAfee show, okay?
The only team. The only team.
I did see that.
I
saw an empty graphic of here's the Cowboys free agency moves, and it was an empty graphic.
Oh, no.
Yeah, like I guess.
I saw Cat Williams.
Oh, yeah.
Got
40. I had him.
Speedy vet.
I mean,
Good 40.
Skip was pretty
Good
pissed.
40.
Okay,
Great
so,
40.
so let's.
We
let's
were
chat
the
about
last
a little
team to
bit
sign
how Cowboys
anybody.
not do anything. We talk about the roster being really good.
We do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like that is kind of always the conversation. It's never like, oh, the roster stinks. That's never a conversation. So everybody always talks about Jerry Jones meddling and everything. Until he stops doing that, they're never going to be able to win again. Now, do I believe that to be true? Maybe. Maybe they never win again with Jerry. We have no idea. I do think the tours through the facility that I learned about just a week ago could certainly be an idea that Jerry has had business-wise that could affect, you know, the ability for every single player to be at their absolute best. I think some players perfect for that. But if you miss on a guy that isn't supposed to be a Cowboy and isn't comfortable every single day, people doing tours and meetings and stuff, that can potentially draw you back a little bit more than everything else. So whenever you're doing free agency or drafting anybody or anything like that for the...
Let's stop. This was last offseason, I believe June. I believe this was June because everybody had signed free agents but the Dallas Cowboys. But I find it interesting that Pat McAfee back in, Pat McAfee, national treasure, shout out to him. Being a punter and becoming the man is amazing. But he touched on something that was interesting about the tours. This is before the whole blow up of the tours where Jerry Jones was happy that ESPN is talking about the tours and it being a distraction because it'll sell more tours. It'll sell more tours. But unfortunately, selling more tours doesn't help equate to the Cowboys doing anything in free agency. But go on, Pat.
Cowboys, I think it is crucial that you get people that can be Dallas Cowboys in the entire story. That's a real thought that has come into my mind since the Dalton Schultz conversation. Like, not everybody's cut out to fucking be watched while they're working out.
Yeah,
like,
true.
like not everybody's supposed. You got to find that guy, and you got to find talent. I assume it's not easy to win down there in Dallas, and they certainly haven't for a long time.
Yeah, it ain't easy. And that culture thing, somebody's going to point a finger at it when you're not winning. It's always going to be something. But I'm sure they were the same way when Emmett was there, when B.A.M was there, when Troy was there, Irvin. Like, that's just how Jerry does, business-wise. And you got to hit, especially this time of year. I am surprised that they haven't gone after any linebacker, though. Because I feel like that was their biggest glaring weakness. Obviously, you lost Trevon Diggs, but Deron Bland had a great year. Gilmore played okay. But that linebacker spot, I would want to keep Micah off the edge as much as possible. You got to get some real, 3-down linebackers on that second level.
Zim down there now? Is that who?
Yeah.
Do you see Zim? So I assume he's thinking a lot of the same things.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they were in on people, but it probably just didn't make sense for whatever reason. But if they reach and go overpay people, then people want to kill them as well. So it's like, what do you do?
They can't do that, though. Like, they have to pay their most premier positions coming up. Like, Mike is going to probably reset the market. CD, he won't reset it because of Jefferson, but he'll get 30 probably. Like, I mean, they have. I mean,
Dak is a legend.
Dak needs another contract. I mean, you can make the argument Tyler Smith needs to get paid reasonably soon. Cause
like
he's
the
one of
Colts, if the Colts were to be judged, and obviously this is not good for the Cowboys to be in this particular conversation. They're probably not happy about it, but you guys didn't win a playoff game neither way. Okay, so that's just how it is.
Same boat.
The Colts had a lot of signings, so they seem to be very active and free. It's all their own guys.
Yeah.
Like a lot of their own guys are getting signed back. Like if the Cowboys had to sign their own guys, seemingly they would be very active right now. And you're not winning any headlines, and Cowboys fans normally win every single headline. And then you look within a division, you got Saquon going to the Eagles. You think he probably gets better there with the Philadelphia Eagles. So I think that's why it's been so loud. You think Big Mike McCarthy's word? You think Big Mike McCarthy knows everything that's on the line every year, I guess, but most definitely this year for him and for the Cowboys?
I would say Big Mike understands. He knows what is on the line. He knows also, hey, we got to get out to a fast start. Like, we can't be messing around this year. No question.
We all win.
We can't be messing around. We can't be messing around this year. So here's the thing. Let's go through. Let's back this thing up a little bit. I want you. This is between 2016 and 2021. What the Cowboys have done in free agency. In 2016, they signed Alfred Morris when you had, of course, Zeke Elliott as a rookie. Benson Mawaya. Nolan Carroll, Stephen Pia, Kona Ailey, and Cedric Thornton. Now, Cedric Thornton is still, I believe, playing. Not exactly impact-type players. In 2017, George Iloka, Randall Cobb. Randall Cobb, of course, actually ended up playing good for that 1 year. Kerry Hyder, Trayvon Austin, Jonathan Cooper. The next year, Emerson Griffin, who was probably the best one that they had signed. These are notable ones because I can also put in here some other ones that they didn't list. Andy Dalton, Darryl Worley, Alden Smith, Dontari Poe, and Gerald McCoy was also part of that, but Gerald McCoy got injured before the season even started. Then in 2021, Jaron Kearse, DeMonte Kazee, Malik Hooker, Brent Urban, Carlos Watkins, Keanu O'Neal, and Terrell Basham. You got some playing time out of some of these guys, that played pretty good, but nothing of note. And here's where we were last year at this time, okay? When Pat McAfee said, well, they have a talented team. This was the free agents that we lost. Dorrance Armstrong signed with Washington, although Dorrance Armstrong did not have a great season like he had been having with us. But when you take out his, 8 sacks a season that he had collectively, you didn't replace it. Biotish, I'll say that we are okay with Cooper Beebe replacing Biotish, although Biotish has had a great season. We lost Dante Fowler, who was like Dorrance Armstrong on steroids this year for Washington. So you could look at that and say collectively what you lost last year, Dante Fowler, who was a role player, and Dorrance Armstrong as a starter, it's basically the same as what Washington got over there. We lost both of those. We lost Neville Gallimore, the Canadian bulldozer, Stephon Gilmore. Okay, Stephon Gilmore. I think that was another one of the key ones because having Deron Bland hurt all season and Jordan Lewis missing time and Diggs coming back, Stephon Gilmore would have helped. Jonathan Hankins, I think another big body in the middle would have been good. Noah Indiga, I can't pronounce it. Sean McEwen, Tony Pollard, that was definitely another big one. As good as Rico has been, I kind of like it better when we have the 1-2 punch. And right now, Rico is the only punch that we have. And Tyron Smith. And you can look and say, we went from an all-pro last year to a guy who can't stay on the field. And your response to this, where you already had holes at linebacker, was Eric Kendricks, and we're going to bring back Zeke. That was it. That was it, guys. And here it is, knowing that this is, most of the guys that I read through here that were signed were veteran minimum payments, okay? Veteran minimum payments. None of these guys, maybe Aldon Smith was a $5 million deal. I don't think he was. Clinton Ha-Ha-Dix didn't even make it through training camp. Andy Dalton was probably like $4 or $5 million. None of these guys are game changers. And that's been the Cowboys say. So when we sit here and we now hear, or now we're getting bullshitted, because I understand, back from days where they screwed the pooch with Marion Barber, where they gave him a $54 million contract, and then he was gone 2 years later. Miles Austin, a guy who had hamstring issues, and gave him. Jay Ratcliffe, becoming the Rat, of course, with us, guys like that. That we had all of these big contracts, and that we were so top-heavy when we had DeMarcus Ware and Des Bryant and Jason Witten and Tony Romo, that we had those contracts that we had to eat money on with Tony Romo's, with DeMarcus Ware. We ended up eating $13 million. That those things transpired through, and we continued to still have these issues with the money because we would end the season where we'd be $25, $30 million over the cap, and the Cowboys would have to restructure guys right off the bat just to get to zero. Just to get to zero. You don't have that problem this year. This year, unlike last year where you started out $25 million over, you have 22 as the cap is projected at the moment. And the cap will probably go up even more. So you, in essence, will probably end up having $30 million of cap space to start the offseason with, plus the rollover of the 21 that you have left over because you didn't sign any free agents. So potentially, that's $50 million without doing anything with anyone. And you have triggers built into Dak and CDs that can get you $100 million. And we literally have already Stephen Jones peeing in our Wheaties, telling us, it's going to be tight. I don't hear any single other team ever, including the New Orleans Saints, that every year is like $70 million over the cap, saying that it's going to be tight. It's going to be we can't do. I don't hear anybody say we can't do, other than the Dallas Cowboys, say that. We can't do. Now, you can look at this right now, and we can say, here's where we're looking right now. Brandon Cooks has been injured most of this year and is getting old. His contract is up. I'm not sure that Jalen Tolbert is a number 2 wide receiver right now. I'd like him as the number 3. I think you need another receiver. Definitely. Maybe you get that in the draft. Rico has been playing better the second half of the season, but I'm not sure that I don't want another back to go with him. Have a 1-2 punch. My offensive line. You got to figure Zach Martin is gone. I don't know about Tyler Guyton, and Terrence Steele probably should be a cap casualty. Maybe you move Tyler Guyton over to right tackle. Maybe Brock Hoffman is the deal. I still look at it and say I need another offensive lineman. Eric Kendricks is a year older. Overshown is gone for next year. I don't want to hear this, well, he might be ready for training camp or no. You need another linebacker. You need another linebacker. You could use another safety. You could use more impact defensive linemen. And you need another edge rusher. The Cowboys' problem is when they lost all these guys last year, the Dante Fowlers, the Terrell Bashams, not Terrell Bashams, the Dante Fowlers, the Dorrance Armstrongs, the Hankins, they just said, we'll just draft our way out of those. You're not going to find 5 or 6 starters in one draft. You have to use free agency if your goal is to win. And apparently, that's not their goal. They could have filled some of these places in free agency last year. You've had people who have wanted to come here, okay? You've had situations where Bobby Wagner wanted to come here 3 or 4 years ago on a deal that would have been basically about $5 or $6 million a year. You had guys like Von Miller, and I'm not saying Von Miller was the answer because he wanted too much damn money, but you had guys like Von Miller who wanted to come here. You had guys like Derrick Henry who was only $8 million. You franchise paid Tony Pollard the year before, and you still paid $6 million in dead money to Zeke this year. You paid $5.3 million to a guy that you're afraid to put on the field and probably will re-sign. But you'll say, we can't afford these guys. If you can't afford them, it's because you messed up. That's all I want to hear. I just want to hear, we made mistakes in the front office on personnel, on who to pay. We screwed up. That's what I want to hear. I don't want to hear that, it's the play calling or this guy that we had to bring up that hadn't played in forever and he ended up blocking the punt, or, we're questioning whether or not they should have blocked the punt and said it would have been better if they had kicked. That's not what, listen. We need defined roles. We need Jerry and Stephen Jones to be freaking owners and get the hell out of the way. Just get out of the way. You need a GM who understands working with the coach and getting the coach what he needs for his philosophy. And we need a freaking accountant, not a cap boy, an accountant who understands the cap. And a guy who can write contracts that work out for both players. Because the Dallas Cowboys, being one of the worst teams, spending the least amount of money in free agency, who literally see that their philosophy, everything that they have said and done has blown up in their face, still continue to tell you they're doing things right. Every single move. Letting Dan Quinn go. Not re-signing Stephon Gilmore. Paying Terrence Steele. Drafting Tyler Guyton. Putting CeeDee Lamb, getting him more touches. Not going out in free agency. All of the moves they have done have looked like the worst move. Oh, trading for Trey Lance. I forgot that one. All these moves have been ass. And for the final bit of this morning, let's go to Rich Eisen. Because this was, again, last year. This is what I want people to remember, okay? Remember what I told you last year. I said, this time, if the team fails, I don't want to hear about the coach. I don't want to hear about the players. I want it to go where it belongs, and that is in the ownership and the general manager for not putting the players on the field. You have to account that we're going to lose bodies, and you have to understand what depth means. And that's not going and solely looking at the bottom tier free agents, guys that are has-beens or never were, or guys that have been out of the league for years, or guys that were disappointments as draft picks, or guys that were injured.
Derrick Henry is a Raven, which is 100% like if you could think of a Raven and know what their brand is and create someone in a lab to be a Raven, I think it's going to be Derrick Henry, right? Mm-hmm. Ray Lewis defensively, Roquan Smith is in that mold.
T-Sizzle.
You know, right? You're just thinking of somebody who's just muscles on top of muscles, who is just fearsome and to be feared and to be rolled downhill in an offense that likes to run the football. Derrick Henry as a Raven is a stroke of genius, certainly since it's $20 million for 2 years. And that's when if he earns everything. In the grand scheme of things, you're seeing money being handed out to tons of players on other sides of the ball, on the line and whatever. And obviously it's a team game, and it's so important to get the blocking scheme down, to get the other team's quarterback down, to defend a wide receiver, to have a wide receiver. But, man, Derrick Henry can control a game, and the Ravens, if they need help just putting the game in the oven and letting it cook, or putting the game in a freezer and ending it, he's the way to do it. Now, I understand the pushback might be, hey, this still doesn't handle things if you're down 10 to the Chiefs. How does this get you back in a game where you're not leading, that you're not playing from in front? And we'll see how the Ravens handle the rest of their free agency season and also their draft. But when you are talking to a fan base that is highly disappointed in a playoff result based on the regular season success, and that fan base is wondering, how are we going to finally get over the hump? One way to answer the question for your fans and also for the locker room to say, we're not going to just rest on the laurels of last year. We're going to add, and we're going to show everyone in the league that we mean business, is to go out and sign somebody like Derrick Henry. And that's all one big setup to say, what in the heck are the Dallas Cowboys doing? I told everybody when I came back from the Combine, in my top 5 rumors I heard at the Combine, that Jerry Jones's definition of all-in isn't what you think it would be. Mm-hmm. All-in is to go ahead and get Derrick Henry. Go ahead and get another weapon on offense for an offense that put up hardly anything on the Green Bay Packers in their one-and-done playoff loss of 2023. That's all in. By saying we're going to put the future on the credit card and we're going to get more people for this roster that was good enough. That was good enough to be the 2 seed.
That's not what we did.
That was good enough to look so dominant over most this year. But instead, Jerry Jones's concept of all-in is to make everybody on the team, including the quarterback and the coach, to play for this season for their next contract. Even if that means the quarterback has to play on an astronomical cap number. And it sure looks like what I heard at the Combine, that they were going to let Dak Prescott play on his cap number of damn near $60 million just so they can say, let's see if you can do it with no future dollars or years on your contract. Play for your supper here, sir. Instead of extending this quarterback and getting the cap space for someone like Derrick Henry. That, to me, is not a definition of all in. And we talk about it all the time. I play poker. To me, after you flop in the playoffs, all in is you go all in right after the flop. We're not seeing another card. We're going all in, and I'm pushing every chip that I currently have to the center of the table. And in free agency, that means you're adding to your stack before you go all in. You rebuy, right? You rebuy and you go all in. And you rebuy by making sure you have every possible chip you can have, which is Derrick Henry or Saquon. The Eagles are going, that's all in, I think. Instead, what they've done is they've checked. They've checked off the flop. They checked. Go ahead, let's see more cards. I'm sticking with what I got.
Hoping to hit. They got a straight draw.
And that's what he's hoping to hit. The straight draw. He's trying to suck out on the river.
That's right.
On the rest of the NFL. And I think the NFL, some of them might have already better hands. They're checking. As a matter of fact, everybody's got free agency trackers. We pulled this off of the NFL.com site because we're NFL.
This is where we're a joke.
People here. There you go. They re-signed their long snapper. That's how things are going right now. We are currently 25 hours into the new league year negotiating window. 25 hours. And the Cowboys have done the important work, all of it is, of re-signing their long snapper.
We got a long snapper.
Honestly, I told everybody. And they were in on Zach Moss, who went to the Bengals from the Colts. And he had a terrific breakout year because the Colts used him while they were waiting for Jonathan Taylor to come back from injury before signing him finally to a long-term deal. And Zach Moss, apparently, $4 million a year was too much for the Cowboys. And they're letting their left tackle go? Tyron Smith is going? Now, again, I'll give them the same benefit of the doubt to see what they do in the draft, and they could hit it. Let's say they get an offensive version of Micah Parsons, and they might need one at the running back spot.
There's a lot of talent in this draft coming up.
Now, I know that, but not so much at the running back position. Maybe they draft Blake Corum, my guy from Michigan. Maybe they draft him late in the first round. I don't know. Let's see what they do. Let's see who they add.
Definitely not. That's an offense. We're going line in the first round.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. And the Dallas Cowboys, because they were one and done. They're 24th on the clock. I don't know. You're going to have to figure out that spot, and you can get, again, I know you get Isaiah Pacheco in the 7th round, and he wins 2 Super Bowls in a row, and that's the way it's done now for teams that feel like their roster's already set. But this is one of the wildest stories of this year, is Jerry Jones's reaction to losing to the Green Bay Packers is to check the flop
and make it worse.
Not all in. All in is the other way. But he's going, I guess, all in on his belief that the roster is winning, and the only thing that's missing is the sword of Damocles hanging over their head by an NFL playoff thread.
Yeah, so much for that.
That's what's missing, is the threat of no longer being a Cowboy.
And how'd that work out for him, Jerry? How did that work out for you? If you really want to get sick right now, if you really want to feel bad, okay, understand that Trey Lance, that we gave up a 4th-round draft pick for, where that 4th-round pick could have been a running back, and we were told we could not afford Derrick Henry. And this is where you know that the Cowboys are either inept, or they're stupid, or they're lying to you. Here is Derrick Henry. He signed a 2-year deal. 2-year deal. And his cap number this year was less than Trey Lance's. His cap number was $5.1 million. Trey Lance is $5.3. Derrick Henry, second leading running back in football. It's only 2% of their cap. 2%. Now, that does balloon up next year to $10.8 million, which, it's a bigger sum. It's a bigger sum, but there's no guaranteed money with it. They could, technically, Here's this is the kicker right here. They could, if they decided we don't want him, they could walk away at the end of the season and just end up taking $3.8 million in dead money. So worst case scenario, he costs you $9 million for 1 year. Or if you decide to play him again next year, he is at 10.8. It's $16 million for 2 years, guys. It's only $8 million a year. $8 million a year. How much you paying Terrence Steele? How much you paying Trey Lance? How much you paying in dead money for Zeke? How much money you paying in dead money for Michael Gallup? It reminds me, they used to say, why is it there's never enough time to do it right the first time, but there always is the second time? And see, this is where the Cowboys are. They keep making all these mistakes over and over and over and over again. But the ones that would actually make a difference, and we know that drafting injured players, going bottom basement in free agency, thinking that just the draft is how we build, don't work. But we continue to do them over and over and over again. So, yeah, it's kind of a bad day to be a Dallas Cowboy fan. Peace.